So, it's great to have you here today, and I'm very thankful that we're having this interview and conversation. As we spoke previously about your works, we have uncovered a bunch of different layers that you have specified had to deal with identity and more. So, I would really like for our viewers to get an understanding of who you are first off. Would you mind telling us a bit about yourself?
Yes, yes, of course. And first, I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude. I'm very thankful that you can have me here. Yeah, I am Yongqi Tang, and my pronoun is she, her, if you could see the caption. And I graduated last year from the University of Washington Pinyin Drawing Program, MFA. And right now I'm working as a full-time artist at Seattle. I initially was born in Shenzhen, China. It's a southern city of China, and I moved here for college in 2015. I've been here for a long time, about 8 years. And my work essentially is dealing with the liminality, living between my hometown, China, and living in where I'm currently at, the United States, and dealing with the feeling of being like in the middle and not really able to assimilate into either culture.
With working and studying both in China and America, how has this influenced the way you approach the social construction of identities within your artwork?
So I think it definitely has a lot of importance. Like because in China, we don't really have other um, kinds of people. Mostly they are Han. You know the Han people of China.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there are other I'll say that we would not say we're racist. It's not like in America there are different races of people. So in China, those people look kind of similar, but they have very distinct culture. But the dominant culture is Han, Han. It's people like me, so East Asian faces. And I would say living in China, I feel like the white people in America. So I'm the dominant race or dominant people. And the show and the magazine and both everything are dominant. Like the culture is dominant by us. So
Okay.
the faces look like me when I'm watching TV or movie in China. But when I moved here, none of the face in the movie look like me. They're all white people. So I didn't really realize how like privileged I was until I moved here, until I become the more marginal people.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I actually have the privilege. I'm the more dominant one back in China. So I think that really impacts my way of looking at the identity because I never have to consider identity when I was in China. When I was the mainstream, I didn't have to consider identity. I have to think about it until I become the marginal. That makes sense.
There must have been a very big culture shift to go through also throughout the time of, coming to America and then studying, and then while studying within American culture, noticing that your culture isn't very much represented here the same way that it would have been when at home. So the concept of liminality and how you express within your works. Can you walk us through what a figure in your work may actually look like and how you express the liminality?
I definitely have different approaches in like my different projects because I am a kind of artist that would get bored by one way of painting. So I have different projects like the E Dream Man Woman that was T293. in Rome last month. That series of work is more representational and work mostly from photograph. And I asked my friends and family to pose for me. So those are more like tangible in reality, since they are the real people like living in reality, like the models are real. So I was definitely thinking about what their roles could be in my painting, depending on what they really are. Like for example, in one of my painting, Post Week, it depicts a scene from my hometown. Like it's my memory. It's not real, but I'm using model in my family. I'm asking my dad, my mom, and my auntie to pose for me. So I would not randomly find an Asian dad or mom, like the other people to pose for me. I would ask my dad and my mom. For me, that's my memory. So I definitely would think about this. And for the other painting, Eastern Man Woman, the apartment, that depicts like how I feel not really comfortable being here, and not being able to be accepted by the culture here. I asked my American friends to post for me. A lot of them are white. And yeah, so in that painting, I'm in the center. And on the right, there is another person that is my friend. Like she is also international student from China, and she has similar experience as me. So we are the only two people that are not totally enjoying the meal or the dinner,
Right.
like in the painting. So that is more specific. And I'm approaching liminality this way in this series of work, closer to real life. But in the series of work I'm just starting right now, which would also, that painting would also be shown in the Miami Beach for my solo show at Jupiter Contemporary. That,
Congratulations.
thank you. That is called Strange Tales, the Painted Wall. So starting from that one, I'm thinking about not using photos at all. Before I am using only photos. So for that painting, I'm not using that at all. Like that comes from my head. And I'm thinking about like how I could be more specific also like culturally. So I'm like looking for references from both Western and East Asian history of painting or art history. Look for a reference there, so it could still like have the connotation of liminality, but it's not very literal. I don't know. Maybe it's literal. Maybe
It
it's
isn't as
more
direct.
come from literature
Yeah.
or art history.
I see.
Yeah, but it's not real life. It is from tradition.
So my
Yeah.
understanding is that previously you were working very much in the sense of personal experience and grasping that understanding. So having people such as your grandparents or your parents inside of these actual
Mm-hmm.
artworks and be the references through photography. But now you're really coming and approaching it through a more literal sense of using references throughout history and culturally connecting the two, since you're studying in America and then also have deep cultural roots in Eastern Asia.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you find this cultural balance something easy to um show the viewers?
Mm, not really. I think mostly. So I don't know if that is right, but when I'm showing my work to other people, I don't want them to be like, oh, this is by an Asian woman, like immediately.
Right.
I want them to look at the painting first and be like, oh, this is a great painting. and then they want to look more into it.
Right.
And because I accept my education in the West, so the way I paint and the way I organize conceptually is mostly Western. Um, so I think um, maybe like people when people look at my painting, they don't really immediately think this is from China,
Yeah.
and I want people to think so. I don't want my identity to be the first people see. I want it to be more hidden in my work. Like for example, I kind of hide those flying figures in the Strange Tales, the painted wall, which would be in the Liminality show. So those flying figures are from actually referencing the Dunhuang grottos in China. So it's in northwestern part of China. It's like frescoes, and they're a thousand years old, and um, it is not really obvious because I put them in the context of like a one point perspective,
Okay.
which is Western. But if people know a lot about um, East Asian art history, I think they will recognize that. So I want people to look into it first and recognize something that is from my cultural root instead
Definitely.
of instead of just like immediately recognizing.
Um, do you ever
Yeah,
find any issues when or challenges that you may come about when creating an artwork that I guess subverts the narrative around your identity and representation?
definitely the research part. So the one project I'm working at right now, the Strange Tales, I just finished that painted wall, and so I'm like drawing from literature. Like it's a compilation of ghost story back in 1700s China. So that is a collection of it's a book of ghost story, very short. Like there are 150 ghost story in that book, and I think it's very difficult for me to like think about how I should take those story out. Meanwhile, have have them like be contemporary because they're 1700s and there are a lot of issues regarding the text. I chose to paint that book because it is so interesting. Um, but sometimes, like the depiction of the female figures, for example, is very problematic. For example, like there are a lot of like rape in that book, and they don't really think it's problematic because it's like very ancient book. So I think maybe I should point out that there is something wrong with that. There are also a lot of restriction or limitation or expectation on the female identity. Like women should be like how to say that submissive, very submissive, and you should be dumb, and you should be very weak, so you can marry someone, and you should just sacrifice everything you have for for other men's, for your husband,
Wow.
for your son. So that is one big reason why female ghosts are so scary in the Asian culture. So that is ghost story, and like one of the most scary figures is the female ghost, and they usually come back for revenge.
Okay.
And I think that is partially because when they're alive, they are so suppressed,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're like represent the marginal of the patriarchy system in China.
I see.
So um, they could only revenge when they die, and they just become so. I think that is because the men are very guilty. They
Yeah,
feel very guilty. They hurt them so much, and they are scared of revenge.
it's
So
true.
they create those female ghosts in those literature. So I think instead of making the female ghosts scary, I need to rethink their role. Like Medusa, her story is reinterpreted
Right.
in the contemporary, yeah, Western society, right? So Medusa was very evil and scary figure. So I think maybe I could reinterpret the female ghosts in Chinese culture too.
Amazing. What are some ways that you're doing that currently, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, yeah, so I only completed one painting.
Okay.
Actually two. So one big painting and one small painting. So for example, the small painting is about the story or the painted skin. So in that story, a Chinese scholar met a Chinese woman, a very beautiful homeless woman who told him that, oh, I'm homeless now, and my dad is very rich. I come from a very wealthy family, and that scholar, like, he is a loser. He wants to kind of have some relationship with this woman,
Right.
so he could be like climb up the social ladder. So he just brought this woman home, and he has a wife, but it's okay to have an affair in in Asian China. Like it's okay to multiple wife actually. So he brought this girl home and have sex with her every day, and it turns out that this woman is actually a ghost, and she's trying to like suck the energy out of this man. She was sucking energy out of this man, and when this man is weak enough, she can kill him and take his heart out. And
Wow.
then at the yeah, but in original story, this woman, I mean, this ghost was expelled by a sorcerer at the end.
I see.
But I the part she killed that man.
Yeah,
Like
no.
yeah, this man is an asshole, and
I agree.
I want her to do whatever she wants to some some
Definitely.
asshole like.
And
So in that painting, I just paint that moment when that man find out that that woman is a ghost. Oh, actually, didn't mention a very important thing. So this story is called The Painted Skin because this woman painted her own skin. So she is actually a monster, a very ugly one, and she just made a very beautiful skin of like a beautiful woman's skin and put it on every day. But every night she has to take it off and repaint that. So I was painting the moment when the man find out that she was painting skin every
definitely.
day. Yeah, but
Definitely.
right after he was killed. Yeah.
Do any of your works ever combat any ideas of current times or social issues that we're currently dealing with in today's age?
So dealing with current time,
Yeah.
I think definitely, yeah. So I think the way I want to reinterpret the story, like justifying the existence of female ghosts is a very feminist idea, and it is very contemporary. And I want to paint the traditional Chinese story in a contemporary, like a Western painting framework. Um, because I have never seen anyone painted those stories in like a Western way. I'm not saying that they have to be painted like a Western way, but I'm like I mean I graduated from a Western school,
Right.
and I this way of painting is part of me, but that cultural root is also part of me. So I could not abandon either of them. And I believe a lot of people is like me, but I never saw anyone did that well. So I want to do that and do that very well too. So I want the Chinese story to be part of our conversation today, like the traditional ones. Yeah.
Definitely.